Welcome to the Advisor AI Solutions podcast, where we explore how cutting edge strategies are transforming businesses, scaling operations, and driving extraordinary growth. I'm your host, Jordan Salvador. And today I'm joined by Rosario Mannino, the principal architect behind RS Mannino Architects and Builders. He has been practicing residential architectural design and construction for more than 20 years, with a portfolio that spans custom luxury homes, historic restorations, and sustainable design projects across New Jersey and New York. His firm has been recognized with numerous awards, including Pro Remodelers 40 Under 40 and KBDN Innovator. Rosario is known for championing the architect-led design build model, ensuring design integrity and sustainability are carried through from concept to construction. Rosario, it's absolutely wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Jordan. Happy to be here.
So here's the bold claim we're going to be exploring today. Design leadership isn't just about aesthetics. It's more about sustainability, accountability, and vision. So Rosario, if you don't mind, I'd love it if you'd share your journey with us and your insights today about these topics. So before we dive into the design and leadership and sustainability, do you mind sharing about how did RS Mannino come to be?
Sure. So I always knew I wanted to have my own practice. So I had worked for a couple of different interned at a couple of different architecture firms down in South Florida, New Jersey, New York City. So I got my feet wet, got all my experience in architecture, and then I said I want to learn more of the dark side, as I like to call it, the construction side. So I got a job working for a construction management company in New York City. And I worked there for a couple of years, really enjoyed it. And then, I have to give a lot of kudos to my wife, credit to my wife, but I just got married, just bought a home, and my wife's pregnant. And I was like, I think now's the time. I was like, this is the right age. I'm just going to keep getting older. I was like, I really just want to do my own thing. I want to practice my own architecture. About 10 years ago, decided to go out off my own. So fortunately, the firm I was at, the construction company, let me stay on for a little while. I got a couple of small projects and then kind of all went from there.
That's fascinating. So it sounds like you saw a gap that, really no one else was addressing, and you kind of just wanted to dive into it yourself.
Yeah. So it definitely was. I would say for me, the big thing were the opportunity that I saw, which I worked for a couple of different architects, and I saw an opportunity where a lot of architects were designing these beautiful buildings or homes, and then it would get disappointing where they would say, all right, bids came back, it's over budget, we're not going to build it. But I just saw a big gap between the design and the construction world, and the design and the pre-construction world. And I felt like architects should be providing more. So I said, I want to look into this design build thing. So I looked into design build, went down a rabbit hole, looked into architect-led design build. I said, this is really what I really want to do. I knew actually I wanted to do this from a little kid, actually, back when I was in 5th grade, as early as when I said I want to design and build. But for more professional level, that's where I saw the gap. From both as an architect, actually, and even when I was in New York City doing construction management, I saw the gap between what architects were providing and the gap between, the knowledge base and things like that. So, when I first started my firm, I said, I'm going to start out as design build. And we started out with design build. And our clients really enjoyed that, single source of responsibility. And, we're accountable from the design, the schedule, the budget. There's no finger pointing. So it's good and bad. The finger pointing there is no finger pointing, but at the same time, it's all on us. But yeah, I love it.
Great. Well, it sounds like you were able to hone in on what exactly you guys wanted to do, and then really become masters at it.
Yeah.
So Rosario, many people assume sustainability in design is just about certifications or checking boxes. From your perspective, what would you say the biggest myth about sustainable design leadership would be?
Oh, I love this question. So I love this question because I feel like I think different on this. I'm, like you said, I'm not someone who's looking to check the boxes. To me, sustainability is more about choosing materials and resources that are sustainable from a longevity perspective, like picking a material that is going to age gracefully and beautiful and last for generations and generations. To me, that's sustainability. We live in a society where we, buy a piece of furniture and throw it out. Where, from a design perspective, from when it's furniture to, your siding, your roofing, um, everybody has a budget, but we can still make smarter decisions on our choices. Maybe the house doesn't have to be so big, but let's pick better material choices that are going to last multiple generations. And to me, that sustainability is, not replacing the windows every 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. I remember the first home I purchased. I was so disappointed because we bought this old, beautiful home that was built in the early 1900s. And it was like 1908. Beautiful home. And the realtor told us that the homeowner just replaced the windows. And I'm like, and they replaced it with these like really cheap vinyl windows were absolute garbage. Not only did it let all the, heat out, but they were just ugly windows. They weren't, they were not attractive wood windows. So if they would have just kept the wood windows, that would have been a more sustainable choice. And instead they thought they were doing something better and, increasing the, opportunity to selling their home. And so I think that's a perfect example of, the beautiful materials, decisions on beautiful materials and natural materials will last longer than this vinyl window that I actually had to wind up replacing too after 5 years because the windows wouldn't even stay up.
Okay. So aside from, wood windows, you mentioned making better choices as far as materials go. Do you mind sharing, a few more options?
Yeah, sure. So I would say a good example, we'll change it up. We'll go back to the interiors. I would say, so in the interiors, there's a big push for all these man-made materials. Now, I'm no expert, but, in the process of these man-made materials, but I would bet that there's a lot of off-gassing and pollution in making these man-made materials. So, and not only that, but this man-made material, I don't think is a smart design decision. It's going to be some trendy material. Whereas marble, for example, or any type of natural stone for that matter, will age beautifully, patina beautifully, and be graceful over time, will last a much longer time. And it's more of a timeless design. So there's chances that it's not going to go out of style and it'll last a longer time. So from a design perspective, I would say that's another, um, you know, idea of sustainability. Um, Another example I would say is, durability in materials, maybe more on the outside. You know, Durability from, siding is the easier one, I would say. Um, there was I call it a big scam, but the whole vinyl siding scam, everybody in it, what was it, the late 80s, early 90s, everybody was wrapping their houses, at least in my market, in the Northeast over here and around the New York tri-state area. You know, Salesmen were knocking on doors saying, I can wrap your house in vinyl siding. Your house is going to look brand new. So we added this plastic material, again, that was made in a manufactured facility that was highly polluted, I'm sure, and then was wrapped, around a house. I mentioned this because my own parents did this, right? So, had a beautiful cedar shingles house and then wrapped it in vinyl siding because they said that, oh, this is going to be more energy efficient. And they, threw on a piece of like paper thin insulation that has like no R value and put vinyl siding on. That vinyl siding is not going to last forever. And not only is it not going to last forever, but now you're trapping moisture inside the house and that wood is probably rotting underneath. So, vinyl siding is not a sustainable material from how it's manufactured. And it's not sustainable it's just not a material that's going to last, as long as a stone or a brick or even cedar shingles. Siding is a big one. We're using some poly ash material now for trim. There's PVC and there's other materials that will never rot and will last a really, in theory, last forever. So, that's another example too on the trim side. We're using poly ash and PVC trim that should last forever.
I was just quickly browsing through your guys' portfolio. Are most of your guys' build more on the luxury side of things?
Yeah, I would say so. It is, and of course, it's definitely on our website. But So the simple answer is yes, but we definitely do, help out family and friends where we can. If something is exciting to us, is challenging, or if it's a good relationship that we have and we just feel a connection with the client, we'll do it. Um, but we, as architects and creative people, yeah, we prefer the projects, with the bigger budgets because it gives a little bit more freedom, if you will, or creativity. But not to say, small projects are challenging, and smaller budgets are challenging as well. Sometimes more challenging, actually.
Right. I imagine so. Even when especially when you're trying to incorporate the sustainability aspect of it. Well, some would argue at least.
Absolutely, definitely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Rosario, if you were advising a young architect or a potential builder today, what framework would you give them to lead with sustainability in mind?
I would say, what I just said, recap what I would say, like you read a lot of articles, just think about who's writing the article, and is it sincere, or is it really someone trying to push a product? I would just say, just be conscious of that when you're reading something. For me, I read something once and I couldn't even tell you where or what it was, but it just kind of stuck with me. And it just made a whole lot of sense of saying, sometimes you got to think for yourself, is this really sustainable? Or is it, someone just pushing the product? You know, um, again, going back to the idea of like, there's certain things that make a lot of sense, right? Like you say, all right, you source the material within 500 miles, common sense, right? But then there's other people pushing, again, these composite materials and these plastics, and then you have to question, like, okay, it's recycled, but still, how is that made? Whereas if you could choose the natural material, it's just, to me, it's more sustainable from a design, timeless, longevity perspective. So just be conscious of this when you're reading about sustainability. I think there is big corporate money behind it as well, just like anything else. So,
Yeah, I really
yeah,
enjoy your perspective when it comes to sustainability. It's definitely a different outlook on it, and it's definitely enjoyable to hear.
yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
So, Rosario, looking ahead, where do you see the biggest shifts in design leadership over the next, say, 5 to 10 years? And maybe what disruptions should leaders be preparing for?
So AI, obviously, AI, and I would say overseas labor workforce. So AI is, I would say, take it to your advantage. AI from leadership role is, how do you, everyone in my office is probably sick and tired of hearing me say this, but I say work smarter, not harder. Um, so from a leadership perspective, utilize anything and everything you can, from AI to efficiencies, and efficiencies from AI, efficiencies from overseas labor, efficiencies from technology. There's just so much technology software out there um, to take advantage of. Even going back to AI. I mean, I'm in AI ChatGPT every single day. Questioning is a starting point for me, right? For sustainability or anything, for material resources, code research from
Hmm.
that perspective. Um, and then, more general for leadership is for someone starting out, just make sure you understand your purpose of what you're really ultimately trying to do. Really just focus on yourself before you try to lead or start a company. Just really make sure you understand what your goal is and your target is. And just make sure, just it's something that makes sense, and where you're going to want to stick with. Because I think, once you set the sail, you got to head in that direction. To be a leader, you have to be confident in your decisions. So, yeah, just think before you move forward, and be strategic.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
you'd also mentioned labor forces from overseas. What did you mean by that?
So it's something we're interested in. Some we're not really doing or masters at right now, but we're exploring opportunities for really just from a administrative perspective, from a drafting perspective, from a rendering perspective, just utilizing. There's a lot of talented people out there, and I think using technology again, like video conferencing, and taking advantage of opportunities what you can. If it makes sense, you know our staff, I always tell my staff, like, you're not draftsmen, you're architects, or architects in training, or you're interior designers in training, or you're trained to be a construction manager, or, we also have a wood shop, which I didn't mention, but, whatever it is, I would say, we want to challenge all of our employees to grow personally, grow professionally. And with that, I think we're at a point where we're saying, like, I think we should look into outsourcing some drafting and modeling and anything else that we can, and really just have our boots on the ground, eyes and ears here in the States, and then outsource what we can. So it's something we're in beta, I guess you'll call it. But
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating, and
yeah,
I think that's great to be able to leverage, outsourcing when you can and when it's applicable, for sure.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
And ultimately, it's should be benefiting our client. So that's the goal. Yeah,
at the end of the day, 100%.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so some argue that design leadership is about vision alone, and sustainability always comes second. Um, do you agree, or do you see them both as inseparable?
I would say I think it's inseparable in my perspective in design. Right, to me, I would like design is not a selfish perspective. It's not from an inner point of view of, there's architects out there, and there's people trying to, you know, put you know, their arrogance or their signature on something. To me, it's not about me. It's about my client, and it's about the environment, and it's about the neighborhood and the site. That's my design philosophy. So in my design philosophy, it's all one and together. Every decision, is as an economical impact, a sustainable, sustainable impact. Um, and, an experience and a memory. There's so many things that go into it. But for me, it's all in one. It's never, one or the other. It's really a balance of it all.
That's awesome. So it's not just about choosing between beauty and responsibility. It really is about uniting them both.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, to me, it's simple. I can easily answer that because I always tell people the design is not about me. I'm not this egotistic architect trying to create this new, you know, never be seen architecture before. To me, it's about my clients and my site. And to me, the site is about, sustainability.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So as far as growing as a company, with RS Menino, um, what kinds of challenges, or what would you say the biggest roadblock are you guys facing right now? And what are you guys doing to mitigate or solve that issue?
Sorry, I think I missed the beginning of that. Challenges in what?
As far as like growing as a company and scaling.
Okay. Growing as a company, I would say, so again, we have three different divisions. So we have a millwork, a wood shop, and then we have the construction, and then we have the design. Um, so they all have their unique challenges, right? And the wood shop um, is, I think it's a little bit easier to train someone, right? We have a young junior cabinet maker, and it's a apprenticeship, right? He's learning how to sand and how to do basic things, but within a year or two, he's going to be able to put together make a whole cabinet by himself. In architecture specifically, it's much harder. I mean, there's just so much experience that you need to get to a point where you're independent. I don't know if that's really the right word, but someone who can really be, yeah, I guess independent, or who can really put measure an existing house, or do a site analysis of a vacant land to produce a design and a construction set of documents that are buildable. That just takes so many years of experience. So that's our biggest challenge, is retaining people, and having them grow with us, and we're so much of an investment in our junior staff that a lot of them say, what, I want to go explore commercial, or I want to go explore hospitality or something else. And majority of work we do, like I said, is luxury single family. So that's one of our biggest challenges, is we put a lot of time and money into training, um, and then retaining, I would say. So it's basically retaining. And even if they are with us, like, we have a lot of employees who've been with us a long time, but it takes a long time for them to get to a point where it's they're at a point where they can hold client meetings or have a meeting with a consultant. So, it's a high skill labor. And unfortunately, I literally just had this conversation with my staff the other day. So we just started something new in the office. I call it Mannino University now. So every Tuesdays and Thursdays during lunch, we call it an in-house lunch and learn. And I was just telling them, like, I think architecture school is great and wonderful. You learn a lot, but the reality is, if you major in economics, you major in accounting, you major in dentistry, whatever it is, any other profession, I feel like the other professions come out much more prepared. Whereas in architecture, it's so vast. There's so much to learn. Specifically in my market, we're trying to, we build light wood frame construction. And, in that, you don't really learn much in architecture school right there. And then in architecture school, they're pushing you to think like a blank canvas and design something never seen before. I jokingly say they try to get you to design things on like Mars and outer space. And in reality, our clients don't want that. They want something that they can, associate with and have memories of that bring them back to their childhood. And, I grew up in a colonial home and they have these memories. So there's an adaptation of a colonial home. So that practice of vernacular architecture is not studied in architecture school. So it's our biggest challenge by far is getting that skill labor to where we need it to be. It takes a lot of time and it's a big investment. And, I give homework assignments. I ask my staff to read books. We're doing this new training. So it's just trying to just get our staff as educated as fast as possible in really being a residential design architect.
I love that idea of Manito University.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But you're
Yeah.
you're so right. I think that's the big difference between a lot of companies from being good to great. It's being able to attract great people, be able to retain them once they become great, and
Yep.
then of course how do you reward them, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. So, okay, so what project right now are you guys most excited about or proud of that you guys are, that's up and coming or potentially that you guys just recently completed?
We have so many exciting projects, to be honest with you. Let's see if I had to pick one. One. This is a tough one. I would say, I don't know if I could pick one. I say, we have one project on the Upper East Side in the city that's almost completed, and we're really excited about that because that was a project where we did the architecture, the interior design, and the millwork. And there's a lot of millwork. There's a lot of high gloss finishing on the millwork. It's a really high end apartment on the Upper East Side. So that's wrapping up this month. Sort of that done soon. That's really exciting. Um, Another project that we just finished up recently too, same thing, similar, where we did the architecture, the interiors, the construction, and the millwork. Um, it was a house with beautiful finishes, right? So we had full control. The client really just gave us had a lot of trust in us in all of our decisions. So the house is wrapped in red cedar, right? It'll last forever. It was properly installed. Actually, the original house had red cedar, but they did not have a proper membrane behind it. So I explained to the client why this material is not looking as good as it should. There wasn't a proper drainage mat material behind it. So we removed it all, put a proper drainage material so now the material can breathe. So we re-sided the whole house in red cedar. It has just this beautiful, timeless, suburban look to it. Beautiful wraparound porch. It's just like your picturesque kind of like suburban home. And it just, we did everything from the interiors and the furnishings and the styling. So we just finished that project up about a year and a half ago, actually. But we just photographed it. Really, really proud of that project too. Just from a holistic perspective, that we really got to work with a client from everything on everything. So.
Wow, I bet you it's absolutely gorgeous for the way you described it. So, can I ask, where do you typically find clients or projects like that?
So being 10 years in now, most of our clients are referral based. Today, right? It was not like that, 4 years ago, but the last couple of years, we've got a steady pipeline of work and it's almost all referral. Just one client from the next. We just started construction on another new build. It's basically a new build. Foundation is existing, and started construction. And then we did these computer 3D renderings, shared it with the client. We're actually not. It's not on social media. The client doesn't want the project on social media, um, but he shared it with one of his close friends, and he saw the rendering. He's like, "I'm sold. I want to call this guy." And then I actually just met with him, and he had a beautiful house, and he wants a really, really gorgeous estate, I'm going to say. And yeah, so I'm excited. So that's a new project we have. I just met with him last week, but it comes quick. Like just focusing on client relationships and client. I call it not customer service, but customer experience. We really take that really serious, and it just goes a long way. So yeah, most of our work now is for referrals from previous clients.
That's terrific. The reputation goes a long way, and it sounds like you guys have built quite the reputation, and the 10 to 20 years you guys have been doing it.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so just one last question before we wrap up here, Rosario. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
I would be living in Sicily, building bed and breakfasts, and living on a vineyard making wine.
Oh man, that sounds like a dream, man.
Yeah,
Also, I
that's my
love that
retirement
answer.
plan.
Well, it sounds like it's gonna be quite the retirement when that day comes. And
Yeah, if I ever
okay,
retire, we'll see. But
bed and breakfast. I love it.
yeah, yep.
Okay, so Rosario, before we close, where can people find you and RS Menino? And if you'd like, could you please leave our listeners with one actionable challenge this week to elevate their own design leadership with sustainability in mind?
Sure. So first, you can find me on rsmanino.com. Website is rsmanino.com. Instagram, rsmanino. All the other social platforms here, RS Mannino as well. We do have a separate website for our millwork company, and that's ManninoMillwork.com. So what challenge I leave? I'm going to say a simple one: read. I just tell this to all my staff. Like I enjoy reading. I just get everything out of reading. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts now as well, actually. So some great podcasts out there. But I would just say read. There's something about reading to me. Not only is it just relaxing for me as a business owner, it's like a stress reliever, but um, I get so much out of reading and all different books from design magazines to business magazines. Um, and my wine books too. But yeah, as my other hobby. But yeah, I really enjoy reading, and I think if I had to say like why I am today, where I am today, it's from reading. You know, I had some good mentors, but I would kind of really give most of it all to all the reading I've done. So
No, that's fabulous. There's a ton of knowledge that can be sourced out of a simple book.
yeah,
But no, that's a great challenge for sure. So Rosario, this has been an incredible conversation. We've unpacked a couple myths around sustainable design, and especially exploring different frameworks for leadership, and looked ahead at some disruptors shaping the future. For our listeners, the key takeaway in this is don't treat sustainability as an add-on, treat it as a core part of your design leadership. Rosario, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I really did appreciate your different take and your perspective on sustainability.
thank you, Jordan. I really enjoyed this. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. And if you guys have enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to check us out at advisoraisolutions.com or on our Instagram at advisoraisolutions. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, automate the ordinary and scale the extraordinary. Bye for now, guys.